and will confuse people too. I saw that map you had last week. I went on the site. They wanted like $40, 40, $50.
Yeah, it was a lot more expensive than I anticipated, because I looked on even the one that I had, and I mean, some of this happens because I'm a lot older than I think, and so I haven't checked the prices of things in years. But even on the pack, you're talking about those communication cards that I was talking about? Yeah. So even on the package, it said like $14 or something. So, and on the website, it was like $30. So the inflation's a bitch.
Yeah.
Doubling and like, yeah.
Sorry?
So I had gotten those from my dad originally when I deployed in 2010. So they've doubled in price in 10 years, but I guess a lot of things have, honestly. So
amazing. But I was thinking of the X-rated version, you could get away with it there. Because I remember you had like sort of the landscape view with the river and the bridge and the train and all that, right?
Right.
And the body, right? Like a person's body.
Yeah.
So you point at the body's crotch.
And then point at the food or whatever.
You point at her face, and then you point at her face.
Right.
And you point underneath the bridge.
Right.
So
there you go. That's what they're for. So the world's oldest profession can function. We may be having another glitching in the chat because I don't see anybody yet.
All right.
And it does say 14 are watching, but no one's showing up in the chat yet. But it does seem to be working right where it's switching between who's actually talking. So if you guys are watching, that's something I changed the settings. So instead of having the tile view where you can see all of us, it should mostly show the person who's currently talking, which will maybe glitch out a little bit if people start talking over each other, but we'll see. So right now, I still don't see anything in the chat. But who knows? Life goes on.
This is probably a lot better for users because it's full view instead of these small boxes.
But welcome, everyone. Thanks for watching. For those of you who haven't looked at the title, we're expecting to have a EJ Snyder, wilderness survival expert, on at some point. So he could pop in at any moment. It should be exciting. Lots to talk about there. So get your, there we go. Some people are showing up in the chat. So get your questions ready. Hopefully he'll be able to make it. I don't know where, I don't remember what part of the country he's coming in from, but he did have blizzard problems before. So I know with what's going on in Texas, that might be an issue still. All right, starting to see some people show up in the chat. Destiny's here, first, last, and ready. Okay. How you doing, guys?
Good evening.
Welcome, one and all. Good evening, Michael Smolensky. All right, starting to have people. So chat seems to be working finally. So save up your questions, and if we get a little time before our guest shows up, then I'll just go ahead and go into my memes early because I have eight memes. The Ocho.
Donna's waiting. Finally, she's waiting for it. It's awesome. She's a super fan. This is great.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna have to, like, next year we'll have to carve out and choose the super fan club and do like a private stream just for them.
Yeah, just for the people who've always there.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Like selfies, like
yeah, exactly. Signed headshots, passing out. Okay, SBQR Cincinnati says people will need to refresh to see the chat working. So go ahead and refresh if you haven't already, and hopefully you should be able to see it. It should be good. Should be working then, hopefully.
All right.
So I guess briefly, we can start talking about, I posted something on Twitter about how it's just like with earlier last year with the coronavirus shutdowns and the stores being wiped out, how a lot of like preparation concepts and activities have been validated. We've seen that happen yet again with in Texas with these weather. People going without power, millions of people without power and during pretty harsh weather. And if this stuff happens so often that I don't know why people are still caught off guard. You know, like people really think that this is never going to happen, that they're going to flip the switch and it's always going to be on. You know, the water is always going to flow out of the tap. The electricity is always going to be there. The propane is always going to work. And so many people just don't do anything. And now people have died because of this in Texas because of the cold weather. You know what I mean? They literally don't have any alternative set up to even heat something as important as heating your house during the winter in a very cold climate. You know, it's mind-boggling to me because for literally a few $100, you could have at least the very basics squared away to where you wouldn't die during a 2 weeks without power or something like that. You know, you might not be living a life of luxury, but just a little My Buddy propane heater, something, a couple of those cans, a way to eat. And food, you don't even have to have a way to cook food if you store the right things. You could have canned goods, MREs, and things that can heat up or just eat raw, or not raw, but eat cold. And just the basics to keep you alive. But so many people haven't done that.
History.
Yeah.
It's weird. There's a psychological disconnect. I mean, you'd think it would be more likely in a state like Florida, as an example, where regular occurrence of natural disasters is more common. There's something in the brain. There's some people that wake up and go, holy shit, this is really bad. I need to do something because it happens every year or a few times a year.
Yeah.
Excuse me, but for whatever reason, there's a mass, disproportionately large part of the population that we could just have disaster over and over and over again. And it's almost like part of their brain isn't making that connection effectively to just take basic measures like you're suggesting. This is not even expensive.
Yeah, literally you could have a one box with a few things in it that you've spent maybe $100 on, that could at least allow you to survive, you know what I mean, during a time like this.
Maybe we'll start there. So we'll just say with that $100, where would you focus your prep? So newbie prepper, fresh slate, you got $100, where are you going to put your money? And maybe that's one of the things that is preventing people from getting into it because of a preconceived notion that maybe it's expensive or it's not attainable.
Right. Yeah, so I guess it depends on what part of the country I was in or what part of the world, because like we've been dealing with, like which things are most likely to, because basically the way I define prepping in general is being able to do without outside systems of support, utilities, whatever it may be. So depending on where you are, the things that are most dangerous to you are going to be different. So like where you are, or where even in Texas right now, without power, the weather is going to be one of the most significant things. In Florida or even here, not that big of a deal to go without power in terms of the weather. So here I would focus on the water and a way to store water, which is cheap. You just have to get a few containers. And then if I was literally just looking for, I had $100 for like a week, I would either get a few MREs or other, canned foods like that I didn't even have to use water, maybe like canned pasta, canned soups, canned meat, canned beans, stuff like that. Didn't even have to cook, could warm it up if I needed to. But water would be the big one, and then food, and that'd be pretty much it. Water and food and any like medicine or anything that I personally needed. But for somewhere where you had a really harsh winter, that would be something I would focus on, making sure that you had some way to heat for at least a week or two, and then the food and water as well. Because the food, obviously, you can go without for a week or two without too much of a problem. But you can't, if you're in Minnesota or Montana or something and you have no way to heat your house, you're going to be in rough shape. At the very least, like someone mentioned in the chat, some wool blankets and things that you can at least be a little bit warmer.
If you're not used to it. And I don't know if we have a place out here called the Goodwill. Salvation Army is another one. It's a thrift store, used items, we'll say. And about half of it is clothing. Probably 30% is just women's clothing at that. But you can find some pretty cool stuff there. Dan was talking about that one of the times he was on, about a wool sweater. Just, you're warm at the core, you're warm everywhere else. Just you cut off the sleeves and you've got this wool sweater that you can put on.
And if you get clothing like that, I mean, even down to probably 0 degrees Fahrenheit, or 20 or 30 degrees below freezing, you're not going to die. You know what I mean? If you have like maybe a good sleeping bag like that, like you said, some wool clothing, some serious winter clothing, you're going to be uncomfortable, and you have to wear it all the time and be sitting there in your sleeping bag maybe, but you're not going to die, at least if you're indoors out of the wind and everything. And then add to that any sort of little heaters and things, and you'll be able to survive. And flashlights too are another big one, or some way to have light, oil lamps, flashlights, because as much as that's not necessary for survival many times, it's a huge benefit, because even during the day inside modern homes, you can't see very well in most of them without some source of light. You know, they're not normally set up too well to just have a lot of natural light. Maybe some rooms in the house are, but if you go into the bathroom or something, if you want to close the door, it's going to be pitch black in there without something. So I'm a big fan of those little Energizer weather ready flashlights. You just put them in a few spots all over your house, and they kind of act like a night light. As soon as the power goes off, they all come on. So then you can at least see your way around. You can find them. You can turn off all but maybe one or two and save the batteries. But it prevents you from all of a sudden being stuck. Because even if you have 100 things that you have ready to go somewhere, if it just goes pitch black all of a sudden, you're rarely going to have the flashlight on you. You know, and that bam, no matter who's in your house, the lights come on, and you can at least see for a few minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So I'm a big fan of those. Propane lanterns work really well.
Sorry, what works well?
Propane lanterns are really bright. I think they work pretty well.
Yeah, they sure are.
They're really even, like light too. It doesn't flicker like a candle or a kerosene lantern or anything like that.
Yeah, and even there's meat candles as well. I mean, excess fats. You can
tallow, yeah.
Get to use that as your fuel source. We've got a question, Mark Faust, for both of you. Speaking of which, ladies and gentlemen, if you do have a question, please do it in all caps. If we don't get to it, try it again. If we don't get to it again, and maybe it was a good question to begin with. I don't keep asking here. Do it in all caps, please. So here we go, Eric. Is there a shelving unit for rotating cans that I could purchase? And if so, where? So to rotate your stocks, I believe is what he's alluding to or suggesting, so that the freshest or the oldest stuff is what you eat first.
Yeah, actually, there's quite a few. There's whole entire shelves you can get from Shelf Reliance is one of the companies. I think, and then they also make, several different companies make different like racks that you can put on existing shelves. I actually have a video on my channel of comparing two of those, the plastic ones that you just kind of build together, and you can set the distance. So if you want to have like a tuna can or maybe a big bush bean can, which is a lot longer, you can use either one. So you can check out that video on my channel to compare and contrast those. You can go to the Shelf Reliance website. And honestly, it's not too difficult to make your own, if you have any sort of handyman skills. One that I'm probably planning on making is one that runs kind of sideways. So instead of having the cans facing you and rolling out this way, they'll run, having the shelf only be about can width and run the whole length of a wall behind your like dressers or whatever, and take up a lot less space. But there's definitely options out there, and they work really well. At the times that I've had those, I've really been happy with how easy it makes it to just boop, boop, drop it in. So if you do a lot of canned goods, food storage, I definitely think that that's a helpful thing. They're just not that cheap. That's really the only downside.
I'm a cheap guy. I'd make one.
Right.
Just me. I would. I found your video here. So what I'm going to do is paste that 3 times into the chat.
Sounds good.
And this is the can rotation comparison. Maybe I'll check that out afterwards myself.
Yeah, that was years ago.
If the price is right. The problem with Canada, and you guys have it like made there for food, because you can get a case of MREs from any number of different companies. If you spend, we'll just I don't know, $500 worth, or like, it's all free shipping. That's where we get, even for stuff like this. I'm sure there's great shelving can units, but to get it shipped here to Canada, it's just not worth it financially. Right. That's just me.
Someone said, Iron Man Spartan says you can use boiled eggs to keep you warm in your sleeping bag and eat them after. Interesting. Yeah, there's actually some products you can get that are sort of like a freezer bag, like you would put in the freezer to put on your head or an injury or whatever, but they're the opposite. So they're like, you can boil the bag, almost like a hot water bag, but it's kind of like a gel, and then the bag will stay warm for a significant period of time. So if you have to cook food, you can also throw that bag in there maybe with the water while it's still hot, let it warm up, and then, put it inside your clothing. You have those hot hand warmers, and they make larger ones that actually had adhesive on them too, so you can stick them under your arms or on your core, whatever, to warm yourself up. So there's all sorts of stuff you can do. They even have little sometimes there's even certain jackets they make with battery packs, that warm up the jacket or vest. They actually have heating elements inside it, so you combine that with a some sort of power generation, whether it's solar, wind, generator, whatever. You could warm yourself up that way. Lots of stuff out there. That's why it's so crazy, because there's so many different things you can do. So obviously, for what's your go-to, Schaefer? If you were middle of winter, shit hits the fan, power goes out, what's your primary way of keeping warm? Is it wood, propane?
Where I'm at right now, I don't have a choice. It's electricity. First thing I usually do when the power goes out is I have a nice hot bath or nice hot shower. That's the first thing. I'd like a really big long one, because you've got this vessel of hot water that is losing its energy.
Good point. But it's still going to be warm for an hour or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, just there's just something about, I don't know what it is. If I know it's a blackout for more than a few hours or into the night, and that's one of the first things I do. I think we talked about this last week. I think one of the first things I would do is focus on when I go camping, and it's -30, -40, and I've done it like up here. I was ice fishing. This is years ago, but we're trying to get into one of my buddy's trucks, and everything was frozen. I literally ripped the door handle off his car trying to open the door.
Broke off.
Yeah, it gets cold here, so I got to go back with what I said last week or a few weeks ago. It all starts here. Thermogenesis. So complex carbs to literally break down, taking their time, churning in your body to break down complex carbs or proteins like cheese, and the byproduct of that is heat. So that's one thing I would do. Enclosed spaces would be important, I would think. I mean, why have all your doors open in your house? Why not block off even the base of the doors? I'm just going to grab another beer. I've got one product I want to show. I don't work for them. It's heat related, so I'm going to be right back. And I'll come in.
Cool. We'll check it out. Someone mentioned earlier, do you watch Unstoppable Morgan Chick Living in a 96 Bronco? I actually have seen her channel. I originally came across because she had a video on how to do a repair with one of the late model original Broncos, because I have a 94 Bronco. So yeah, she seems like a bit of a basket case, but it is fun to watch her videos. She'd probably be the first one to admit it. But they're actually coming out with a new Bronco too, for those who don't know, 21. They have two versions of it. Like the first one I saw was like the Bronco Sport, and it looks like crap. It looks like a regular soccer mom SUV. But then they do have the other actual Bronco coming out that looks, more like a Bronco or a Jeep Wrangler or whatever.
All right, just like Predator.
All right, let's see what you got.
Every time
you just warp in from the background.
This one I especially love for winter camping. I love this product. So this is I really discovered this about 5 years ago. It was called Click Heat at the time. I don't work for these companies at all. There's a lot of different companies out there. So this one in particular is called Moist Heat Pack.
Okay.
Some kind of chemical in here. You can reuse them. So you heat this up like a hot water bottle.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yeah, something like this. Yeah.
So and then that's but I don't think I heard you say the click part. You can click it out.
Oh, I don't know about the clicking. Yeah, what does that do?
There's some sort of chemical reaction that causes it to get hot, and I mean like hot to you can't touch it. It's like it's amazing. So what I do, and they've got lots of different shapes and sizes, and if you go to any like survival type related shows, you'll probably see somebody in a booth selling these. These are both spents. Okay. The way that you reset it, you can see it's been, we'll just call it crystallized, because I don't know the correct terminology here, and I'm ignorant to the actual technologies. But in a nutshell, you throw this in boiling water, it'll solidify, and then you can use it again. So what I do is I throw it in boiling water when I'm ready to go to sleep, like a couple hours before. I'll throw this in boiling water, it'll solidify, and it's a hot, it's just a hot pack. And I dry it off and I throw that into my sleeping bag, and it's wonderful. Get into my sleeping bag, it's all nice and toasty. And then when I wake up at 6 in the morning or whatever, I'll click it, and that chemical reaction causes heat. And I got to tell you, man, like it's wonderful.
That's cool.
It's like,
So if you use it right after you like reset it, you can get double use out of it, because you get that heat from when you boiled it, and then you can click it again too later.
The intention or the original, exactly. But the original intention was just to click it and it gets hot. Right. And then to reset it, you put it in boiling water. So I take advantage of both
Right.
opportunities. You know,
Why not? You're going to use all the energy to boil the water, so might as well use the.
Yeah, exactly. It's wonderful. Put on my neck, put on my balls.
Wherever you need it. That's great. Yeah, so even something like that, like I was saying earlier, you're not going to be, unless you have some pretty significant preparations, you're not going to be able to be comfortable and have your life be exactly the same when the power goes out if you're in the dead of winter in most places. But you're going to survive and be reasonably comfortable, probably. So that's why, and those things, we're talking about a few bucks here. Like those things, you could $100 on most stuff we're talking about, and you could be pretty squared away for a week or 2 week power outages.
Yeah, you know, it's a lot of this stuff. It's like I'm getting for me, I'm getting soft in the ears. I like my comfort now as I'm getting older. But
yeah,
you got to go down to core skills. You have to be able to make fire when you're exhausted and freezing. You have to be able to get dry in wet situations. There's fundamental core skills here that we're completely ignoring, because this doesn't mean jack or any products or any whatever. It comes down to the fundamentals ultimately. But if you're in your house, you know, a lot of it's just common sense. Taps are going to freeze.
That was a question I had, because I've not lived often somewhere or ever where freezing pipes is an issue. But if I'm not mistaken, if you know you're going to be in a situation where it's that cold, if you open the taps, it can prevent the pipes from bursting at least, right? Because the ice could theoretically push out the valve.
Yeah, well, I think it depends on the layout. But what I would do is and I've had pipes burst, not with rental units, not a place that I've owned. You could divert it if it was your house with valves, so that the pipes only have water in certain sections of your house. You could, what some people do is they run the water, because if there's a flow, if I've got water in a pipe in the basement and it's a 1-inch pipe, copper, and it's getting cold, eventually it's going to freeze and burst. But if I get a blast of water from the town into the system, then it's going to rush in a different temperature water. It won't be as cold. So sometimes just the cycling of the system can help.
Right. Or if the valve's open, like I was saying, with even just a trickle, it wouldn't burst because it could. Yeah.
That's what you meant, a trickle.
Right. Just so it's open system and it's no longer, because when the valves close and the water freezes, but the pipes freeze and they're full of water, obviously it expands, and that's when they burst.
Okay, sorry.
So if it can expand out of the opening, basically, would be the idea, I guess.
I don't know what I was thinking. Out of the opening, I was just thinking like an open for it to possibly expand out of. But if it's open, so there's a trickle, then you just the exact same point that I just made.
Right. Cool.
So there's a flow, there's a flow. Mark just send me a link for those heater things. I know mine was called Click Heats. This is Moist Heat Pack.
Someone says EJ. Yeah, we're waiting. Hopefully he'll show up.
He's playing us here.
Yeah. He wasn't happy. He wasn't happy with your knife review.
Yeah, that's what it is. And I was gonna give EJ is probably watching this, laughing his ass off. Dude, you had the floor. Dude, this is prove your point. Go with, I want to talk about your experience on Naked and Afraid, Dual Survival. Ed Stafford, I got to hear about that guy. That guy's a genius. Survivalist genius. But who knows? We'll see.
Well, like I said, maybe he's caught up in the blizzards again. It is happening.
How many times should we give him, Aaron?
Yeah, how many blizzards?
We'll probably come up with something else,
right. No, I'm good. I'm good with the second chances, as long as we're having fun on here. Speaking of which, I have a couple memes we can do. We're about the halfway point. I only have 8 today. Most of them are not prepping related or anything.
Right.
But it's just, fun stuff. So let me see what I got. All right. So let me see if I remember even how to share screen. All right. You see it? This one just cracked me up, and I'm not sure why. This guy says, being 21 without a driver's license is one of the bravest things you can do in America. Oh, you're a nurse? I had to look my mom in the eyes and ask to go to Walmart. I don't know why That cracked me up. Oh, what a hero. All right. Then we got sending lit memes after society collapses. He's got solar panels on his burrow out in the middle of the desert. It's going to be me.
That's going to be
still sending memes. Yeah, fire memes after the apocalypse. Then we have Seinfeld, but all the characters are melded into one person.
That's funny.
And this is like Biden's stepdaughter or something, for those of you who don't know.
Really?
She's this really goofy looking girl who's wearing like these atrocious outfits. And of course, everyone's acting like she's a quote fashion icon. And like she got a modeling contract and shit for shit like this. And then it's like, it does actually just look like all the Seinfeld characters in one.
You got to send me that one. That's hilarious.
Okay. That's good stuff. Then we got when your human says eating too many treats is unhealthy, but you just watched her eat a half of a family pack size Oreos. He's like, bitch, I saw you. Then we got heroic father crosses the Mexican border and travels 1,200 miles to find running water, heat, and electricity for his family. Ted Cruz, of course. And then the other one is Ted Cruz, or Texas if Ted Cruz didn't go on vacation to Cancun. All their problems would have been solved. What was he doing? And we have Texans demanding that the snow get off their property. And yeah, sex is cool, but have you ever been labeled a domestic terrorist?
Okay.
That's it. Yeah, right. It's like, okay, that's all I got. Fun times.
What's the deal with that dog? I don't know what the connection
The Doge?
is.
That's just a meme. Yeah, it's the Doge, like Dogecoin. It's based on the. Yeah, the Dogecoin is based off the Doge meme, and he just says things in a weird way. Like, yeah, it's just a meme format.
You mean Elon Musk says things in a weird way?
No, the meme format is the dog is like, so wow, much whatever. It's just a really goofy meme that.
No, I got that, but that dog, particularly that dog, is showing up.
Yeah, that's just the Doge from the Doge coin and Doge. It's just a
relating to the cryptocurrency or the cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
I've got 3.
Oh, nice.
They're not. I don't know. They're not appropriate. I think. Maybe.
All right.
I don't know if they're funny or not.
We'll be the judge. Our viewers will be the judge of that.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they like me because I don't get any. They don't send me any memes. Like,
yeah, I've basically got one guy that's been helping me out sending memes. I didn't even get to check his this time, though.
Oh, really?
These are mostly Facebook memes.
You're a super fan.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
so what do you got?
Play. And EJ, what's going on with EJ? This is hilarious. Yeah, he convinced me. He sold me last time. Power outage.
Like, all right.
Yeah, how many times should we give this guy? I mean, you seem to be a lot more forgiving than me.
Yeah, probably. I'm just lazy.
The Zoom is updating now.
Oh, great.
Anyway, let's go through some comments here and make this more productive for our user base.
All right. Someone says Makita makes a battery heated jacket, like we were talking about earlier. That's pretty cool. I think Milwaukee, which is another like tool company, I think they have one as well, because they already all these companies have their battery packs of these 12 and 18 volt battery packs, and you can just plug them into the jacket. So it's pretty cool. Probably not a good long-term solution, but like we're saying, for a week power outage, just having your car to make sure you don't die if it breaks down or something like that when you're out in the middle of winter. What are the vaccination numbers in the USA? I have no idea, and I don't care.
All right.
Like I mentioned before, the good news is all the people that want it haven't even got it yet, so they're not really trying to give it to anyone who doesn't want it. We get our alien signal sound still. Got a lot of weird feedback.
All right.
All right.
No memes this week, so I don't know. Always happens.
You always tune into the alien signal.
Something. And whenever I connect, I can't do memes on this phone for the viewers. And whenever I connect another Zoom meeting on the other, things just go wonky. So, two preppers here answering your questions. Prepper Trifecta, episode number 472.
At least. At least.
Second time EJ has stumped us.
Starting to think it's us.
I think he's pulling I'm gambling he's pulling a fast one. That's what
you think so? Okay. Yeah. I know stuff happens, so.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Let me read out his last email to the audience, and they can decipher his reasoning.
Well, we'll see. Okay. We'll see if it's
reasonable. We'll see if he's
because I've blanked on some things before too. I almost missed my last haircut appointment, so it happens.
Okay, here we go. This is from EJ. This was on the 31st of January. So this would have been the Sunday night, right after the show. Was at some point after the show when it was originally scheduled. These are not my words. These are EJ Snyder's words. He was supposed to be our guest tonight. This is the second time. It's been a no-show. This is his response from the first one. Hello. Deepest apologies. The winter storm hit our area, and due to heavy snow and ice, we lost power and internet service. It just came back up. This is terrible. I am so sorry this happened today of all days. Out of my control. I do hope we can reschedule this. Again, 1,000 apologies. It's a lot of apologies. Why dislike the modern world and electronics? Let me know how you'd like to proceed. I don't mind going 2 hours to make it up. Next Sunday is the Super Bowl, blah, 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 blah.
Well, that's it. I get it. Now, every time he misses one, we just add an hour. So if you're like, if you want to come on, that's cool. But now you're up to 6 hours and 3 giveaways.
I told him, don't even worry about the giveaway. But he's in my response for the last part here, folks. We got to give some stuff to the audience. He says, I will also throw in a huge giveaway to make up for it. So, what do you think, folks? What do you think? I agree. I'm convinced.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm convinced. I'm sold. I believe it.
21st, my friends. That's what he says here. 21st, just to confirm that it was the 21st. Anyways, it's all good. EJ, I hope you're healthy and well. I hope everything worked out, whatever the case may be. So, yeah, Mark Olson, Aliens Got Shay. Mark in LA, I'm still here. Okay, good for LA. I guess maybe we were referring to LA stuff before. Or California stuff before.
Yeah. I agree with SPQR Cincinnati, who says if you cannot share memes amidst a winter storm, then you aren't prepared. True. That should be the benchmark. If you're not have the capabilities and the calmness and wherewithal to be able to share awesome memes, then you aren't truly prepared.
So let me ask you.
Yeah, go for it.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just like the communication cards we have, we should stash some just memes in your bug out bag, just to be like, yeah, I'd like you to check out something. What do you think of these memes?
That's fun. Actually, I'll compliment that. Excuse me. For my Patreon members, and I don't care. Like, don't sign up to my Patreon. But just for the members that I have there now, what I thought I would do is put together a catalog of memes, funny, of all their favorite comedians. So if it's like Dave Chappelle, whatever it is, all their stand-up comedies, and make one mega download. So each of them can give their 2 cents on who they like the best.
Okay.
This compilation of gigs and gigs and gigs of information of comedy, really.
Yeah, so someone mentioned on one of our, I think it was one of our live streams not long ago, that you can download Wikipedia for like 18 gigs. Yeah.
That's something I'm definitely going to do as well. Because
I'll go with Info Galactic. Wikipedia is really a little woke for my tastes.
Is there another one? I didn't even know.
Yeah, so Info Galactic is pretty much, I don't want to say a copy of Wikipedia, but it pulls all the relevant, I think they originally pulled all the relevant stuff, and then it's just not allowed to be, if it's a stupid woke update, then they just don't go along with that.
I agree that you're totally right. Like it's
like they'll change things on there just because they don't like the person or their belief, not because of trying to show the facts.
That's
Very
right.
biased. Very biased.
I've had personal experience with it. It is very biased, and it serves an ulterior agenda above and beyond facts, rationality, logic, and all these sort of wonderful things. Unbiased. It's. So what was the other one called? I'm gonna write this down.
Infogalactic.
I'm learning something every week here.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out.
Infogalactic.
Yes.
Rational Wiki. There was a celebrity that wasn't able to edit their own wiki.
Right. And people do it a lot of times. They'll do it they'll make spiteful type of it. You know what I mean? Just the purpose because they don't like someone. They'll only focus on negative or so-called controversies, or leave things out, or get rid of their page altogether. Things like that.
And that was the turning point for me.
Right.
Who the fuck are you to say I'm not an authority on
myself? Right.
Very bizarre.
Yeah.
And I had a run in with an organization years ago. I attempted to update something on that organization's Wikipedia page, and because it was a sponsored page somehow, so I guess it got more. It was monitored more regularly. They wouldn't allow me to make the change, although it was a legitimate, legitimate change. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, Eric has brought up another database of information above and beyond Wikipedia. Infogalactic. Wow, I'm gonna have to download both.
Yeah.
Both databases, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you can get like a 2 terabyte hard drive nowadays for less than $100, it's not that hard to throw up a few 10, 20 gig things here and there.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay, Mark Olson, other Prepper channel guests, suggestions from audience. Oh, we're not even talking to us anymore. It's a question for the audience.
Yeah.
Okay. What are your thoughts on how to store OP tanks for a buddy heater, and how many tanks?
Well, how many tanks depends on how long you want to run it. I would try to do some kind of test or look up how long one can run, and then find out what period of time you're trying to be able to provide heat for, and then do the quick math on that. If you say with one of those little tanks or one full size tank, you can run the thing for X number of hours, and you want to be able to run it for Y number of hours, then you just add it up. But obviously you can store them outside. Most propane tanks like that people have for their grills and stuff, off-grid type propane tanks, are just outside their homes. You can store that stuff inside. The risks are obviously any kind of leak or any kind of fire could cause an explosion. But I don't think there's a big problem with storing a few cans in your garage or something like that. Do you have any reason why that would be an issue, Che?
I'm not a big
propane tanks in your garage. Yeah.
Just first off, there's huge advantages with having a system that you can click on instantly, as opposed to manually, making a fire and getting things up to temperature.
Right.
So we appreciate the value in that, but I don't like the expiry of the storage, and I don't like the fact that you can't, for the most part, use any sort of propane systems inside. So you're already sort of limiting frames in that respect. You have to open up a vent, or outside. You have to have clean oxygen.
I mean, most of the time, if you're not running something big, from my understanding, you can use them indoor. I mean, like all the gas grills that everyone has, they're indoors. They do have vents and everything, but as long as you're paying attention, they usually burn pretty clean, from my understanding. And if I had a small propane heater running, I wouldn't be too worried about, I'd crack a window in another room or something maybe, but unless you're running it for hours and hours and hours with no flow, you should be okay. I'll have to do some more research on that though, about where the line is. But obviously there's propane appliances, fireplaces, stoves that people use inside, water heaters, and they are vented usually, so that's probably the difference. But it's pretty clean burning usually. But I would definitely do it closer to it.
I do agree. And the problem for me is that gray area of not knowing necessarily. We had a black guy here some years ago, and even Survivor Man recommended propane heaters. People subsequently died as a result of poisoning from the lack of ventilation. So then I don't know if I put my trust into some sort of monitor necessarily to say, yes, it's too much. or not enough ventilation. So what was his question again? How long?
Well, his is about storing the cans, and yeah. So like I said, I don't think there's an issue with storing a couple, 15-pound cans or in your garage or something like that, or right outside your back door. Obviously, if they're outside, they could get stolen or something like that. And there's some places like out here where they could get incredibly hot, and you might want to have them inside of a some kind of tote or wooden box or storage shed or something like that. But I don't see any reason why you can't store them outside in most cases.
I don't, if it's just in Canada, we did the standard 20-pound or 30-pound containers. It's, don't get me wrong, they're always good to have around because it'd make an excellent bartering item.
Right.
To people are going to be cooking food off of their barbecue, probably. If things are that bad, the route I would go personally is some sort of portable fireplace and just open up a window, get some wood around it, reinforce it if you can with the materials you have, like using a big coffee can and putting rocks in it and drilling a hole. And just go that route. If things are that bad, you're not going to have bylaw officers show up to your fire code issue. So if we're thinking about heat, just get an old fire stove, like a wood stove, literally. Throw it in your backyard, put a tarp on it, forget about it. And there's plenty of wood out there. There's plenty of decks. There's plenty of fences made out of wood. Immediately, that's right there, and that's probably what I would do. I wouldn't use propane indoors. That's just me, but that's just
you don't want to be careful with it, but look into if you could set up a ventilation thing ahead of time, then you'd be good to go.
Rizza. I feel like an idiot saying that every week.
Just call them BRG.
Notorious BRG. Just keep a CO2 detector nearby. You're right, but how accurate is it? How, is it going to be? There's just too many. How close to the unit does it have to be? Put it over there. There's just so much gray area there. People have died because of having a propane heater inside their house.
Right.
So that coupled with the expiry of propane canisters after so many years.
Do they expire? I thought they just slowly could leak. I thought propane never expired.
Let me backtrack here. You can't get it refilled. So if I've got a tank.
Oh, I see what you're saying. The tank itself expires. Yeah.
Yeah, it's stamped with a year, and then.
Well, here if you go, they have like tank swaps at like Lowe's and Home Depot and stuff, and they never. I've taken garage sale cans there, and they don't look at the date, and they just grab them and give you new ones.
Okay, well, I'm sure you could entertain or figure out different routes to do it, but they won't refill them after a certain year point here. So, and I don't even know if they'll exchange them. I could be wrong on that. They might exchange.
No, I mean they're probably not supposed to, but I don't know if the random Lowe's employee they just give them a dirty can and they give you a full one. You pay them $20.
Yes,
maybe I've just gotten away with it and I wasn't supposed to.
Just slip them $5.
Yeah, right.
What do you think of small cast iron stoves from Harbor Freight?
I'm assuming she's talking about the wood stoves, but it might be a rocket stove or something along those lines. I've never used them. I had a wood stove at a house in Florida. I didn't really have cause to use it that often. It was definitely a prep for cooking and heating after an apocalypse. But you just got to make sure you set up chimney and system for it, as with like a fireplace or anything else, or else you'll smoke yourself out.
It's a beautiful stove. Cast iron.
And it's a wood stove?
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Cool. I've often thought about this myself because BRG says between my propane and ammo I have stored, if there's ever a fire, be sure to make national news. Yeah, I've got a little bit of gasoline storage, some usually propane, quite a bit of ammo, some other little things here and there that might not react so well with flames. Yeah. So I need to get the fuck out if I ever get a fire. Probably go at least 2 or 3 doors down.
That's funny.
That's why I make sure I always have little, even just right beside my computer desk here, I've got a little spray fire extinguisher, and I have not real ones, but the larger actual ABC fire extinguishers throughout the house too, because I want to nip that in the bud. Definitely don't want to have to worry about thousands of rounds and cans of propane and other fun stuff going up.
Yeah, it'd be quite the more serious preppers out there that have a lot of resources will have, if anything were to happen, it'll be some interesting fires. There'll be a lot of explosions. That's for sure. The one I've got, just since we're talking about stoves there for a second, for today, is that looks like a great stove. I mean, you know, I'm looking at based on the photos, it looks like it's pretty heavy, which is good because that'll,
Yeah.
you know, it'll have a lot of thermal heat that'll hold on to. I purchased one years back that I converted into, like, I originally had a Canadian military Arctic tent, then it was just too big, so I went a little bit smaller, canvas A-frame tent, and I outfitted it with my stove. It's called the Frontier Camping Stove, and it's fantastic. It folds up, all the pieces fit into it. It's got a handle.
How much does it weigh roughly?
I think it was 10 pounds. It's
Okay.
not something you can bug out with.
Right, but for a camp size kind of.
Yeah, but the ingenious thing, do you mind if I send you an email?
Yeah. Pop up a picture or what?
Yeah, or maybe you can share your screen and just go to Google.
Okay.
It'll probably be easier, actually.
Sure. Send it over.
Okay. Well, it's gonna take a second, but there
No
was
worries.
I was sold on the logic of how they heated up their water, because there's only so much surface area for cooking. So what they
Right.
did with the stovepipe is they had this system where you don't just put a pot. Traditionally, you got your stove, you got your wood stove, and there's limited real estate to do any cooking
Right.
with water or whatever it is that you want. So they devised a way to use a unique water heating system. So let's just say this is the stovetop and this is the flue going out and exiting. They've got this sort of wraparound thing. It attaches to the chimney pipe. It's really cool.
Oh,
And
is it kind of like a Kelly kettle or Gilly kettle or one of those? Because there's some that they're kind of doing the same. I don't, it's not doing the same way, but the dual purpose of, so like the stove looks like this, like a rocket stove, but it actually is a water bottle with a hollow center. And so this, you put your fires down here. This is the chimney, but it's actually has water in the bottle as well. So the chimney of the stove is actually heating water while you're cooking something up here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make a video with some of these, because they're really cool setup for that reason.
It's not like
Okay.
that system. And maybe they could improve it to include that, which I've seen with the Kelly kettle. Just to complement what Eric was saying, it basically, you know, when you've got a fire will just burn energy and disappear. So
Right.
it essentially sort of gasifies existing material and gases that are already hot and already mostly burnt, but there's still some energy. So it sort of reuses or finalizes the use of anything that you're burning, which turns into efficiency, which turns into less wood to heat anything really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it goes double duty. You're heating your water and whatever you have on the stove at the same time, so you can use less fuel, obviously.
Yeah, and there's some stoves designed, like portable wood stoves designed that way as well.
That's cool.
I think the BioLite works on that sort of technology, which is it's a mini gasifier thermoelectric generator, which maybe I'll bring it out next week when we talk about it. It uses, have you seen this thing? It's got a USB port.
Oh yeah, I have one of the BioLite.
Yes.
I haven't ever used it.
Oh, yeah? Well, it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
You got to give it a shot. And so it uses a gasification technology.
Yeah.
If you look inside, you'll see holes all the way around it. But
Thought I might have it up here, but just a
if you
second, I
want
might
to
have.
see the screen, then I'll
Yeah.
show you the.
I've seen some people have actually using the same concept, have built houses where like the wood stove chimney kind of routes through like a stone or concrete bench.
Yes.
Almost, so you can like sit on it and be like, and it just kind of radiates heat into the entire dwelling because all that heat's going somewhere. So
Yeah.
instead of going out into the atmosphere or into just a metal chimney that you don't really get, they actually just use it. So
I built one
cool.
years ago with the it was outside, and when I dug it into the ground, my logic was to keep the ground warm, so that
Right.
it's warm ground, I'm going to be hot, and it was
Yeah.
basically it's a rocket stove, and it's too complicated to get into now.
But the concept is cool.
Concept is there, and it actually what kind of fucked me up psychologically with it, because my bed is here, and underneath there's a tunnel. There's a fire here, and there's an air feed line with the fire, and then my chimney is over here somewhere. It's about 4 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
And if you set it up correctly, the air, you light your fire in the ground, it doesn't go up. Your fire literally travels sideways.
Yeah, it's actually fire in the, not just air, but like the flames are going sideways.
The flames are going sideways. So it was a real sort of doppelganger to observe, because like it was a bit of a mind fuck, because you're always seeing fire go up, but it heated up the ground. So that's exactly what you were talking about. People build like clay couches, and use that thermal energy, radiant heat from it to heat up their
pretty
place.
Cool stuff. Someone says, Eric, what's your preferred AR round? I mean, to an extent, I have a preference at all. I like the M855 steel penetrators. What are they, 62 grain, I guess? I have no issues though, but I shoot all sorts of other stuff too. So I don't really care too much. But yeah, I like the green tips.
All right, I sent you a link.
All right, let me grab it.
We can share the screen and people can see what all the fuss is about.
All right. So that won't work. All right. Bell tent, is that it?
Yeah. Belltent.com.
Yeah, here we go. All right, let me share. You guys see that? Frontier stove pack. Pretty cool. So you just got vertical chimney, goes straight out the side of their tent here. Cylindrical body design. See, the picture's got some oh, that's not too big. It's about the size of a
it's not very big.
Yeah, pretty cool. And those things will put off, these like cast iron type stoves like that will put off a lot of heat. You have to be careful you don't bump into it and roast yourself. But yeah, so that's a cool little option. This one is $650 roughly.
Holy crap! They've increased the price.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a little expensive.
See that water? See where the stovepipe is? Can you zoom in on
that? Let me see. What is that control?
So that
right here, this thing wraps around it, or what?
It literally wraps around it. So what you're not seeing is the letter C, which wraps around.
Right. So it's touching the chimney basically.
Over the pipe. And the cool thing is you can rotate that off and on of the stove.
Let's see if they show it.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they did. That water system.
Showing the chimney, showing her manhandling the chimney like it's ice cold. Yeah, they're not going to get into a cool pot that goes around the. Show us a lot of the chimney.
Yeah.
I guess this is just for the stove, right? It's not really for that. Maybe they have the pots or whatever are different.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Sold separately. So, all right. Well, that's cool. Yeah. So definitely, those are an option. And yeah, so that one's relatively expensive, but for at least if for a few $100 or whatever, you have that set up, and you have a little bit of wood stored. And these little stoves like that, they still kind of function in like a rocket stove design. Not full on rocket stove, but they it's not open like a fireplace. You know what I mean? It has the airflow just goes straight through and out. They don't use that much wood if you keep it down to like a small roaring fire. They'll put off a ton of heat. Like you can make it pretty comfortable in a small room or a small tent or something like that.
Absolutely. I just sent you another link. It's up to you if you want to share.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. I'll find it.
Shows it. I think the reason I want to like glorify this is what sold me. It was the intelligence and logic behind this specific design. Because this is something that was unique to them. I was like, okay, I gotta get this thing. There's just there's.
Oh, so you have this one?
Oh yeah, I've got the stove. Yeah.
All right, here we go. So yeah, I see what you're saying now. Let me share.
It's nice that you can rotate it off as well.
Yeah, so there you go. So it clamps onto the, and you actually have a little spigot down here, so you can let off some boiling water.
Yeah, and you got the little handle, so you go around to the troops, give them some tea.
Yeah, so this is pretty much exactly like a Kelly kettle, but instead of being a one-piece construction, you strap the water bottle onto the chimney, so it's not always there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you could actually buy this and then just make a any sort of little rocket stove with a piece of pipe as the top, you know, strap it onto the top of a little concrete. Some people make them out of cinder blocks or whatever. Pop that and just add the chimney on and strap that thing onto it, and it'll work, absorb all that energy.
Yeah,
because that energy is going to be up there heating the chimney anyway. You know.
It's,
I wonder if you could get two of these, just put them back to back.
Good idea.
And use them as the chimney. Not even need a real pipe, you know, just have a way to kind of anchor them together.
Okay, and oh, I see what
like
you're saying.
Instead of a CNC, you make an O like that, and then that is your chimney. You stack it on top of the little concrete base or whatever you're using for your rocket stove, and then you have a bunch of 3 liters of water too. So that's quite a bit more than the Kelly kettles or the Gilly kettles, because they use you'll get a few cups of water in them, but that's large. So 3 liters in each one. And that way, anytime you have a fire, even if it's for something like just general warmth, for cooking a meal, you always are going to have some hot water there. If you want to use it for cleaning, for cooking, for bathing, you could always, if you have 2 of those things pushed together, you could always have 6 liters of hot water anytime you had a fire going.
Yeah, and your water's just going to be a regular ongoing thing in a blackout situation or a cold situation. So what's nice about it too is you can rotate it on and off the stove. So you could have like the flat area of the stove,
right,
in the room, and just like literally turn the whole device.
Yeah, so it's hanging off the back instead of taking up your stove top.
Exactly.
Awesome. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Mark Foss, is it safe to store gasoline in 55-gallon drums?
Well, it depends. It depends. I mean, there's nothing that is necessarily going to happen to the gasoline, but it's probably going to be illegal where you are. Just something to consider. Not that anyone gives a shit, but it's certainly the more gasoline you're storing, the more risk you have, regardless of how you're storing it, you know, due to leakage and stuff like that. But yeah, you can store gas in large drums like that. I would look into some kind of probably underground cistern or something if you can swing it, if you're looking to store that much. And some kind of pump system, obviously. If you want to keep it away from your house, just keep it out of the sun, all that sort of stuff. And just realize that even under the ground, it would have to have some way to off gas probably, or else you'll pop the lid off if it gets too warm. I wouldn't just have a 55-gallon drum of gasoline in my garage or something like that, but but it definitely can be done.
A lot of gas. You can not planning to use it. There's additives you can get. I understand from self-sustainable gentleman that buries his gasoline. Says that you should remove as much, not only add additives to it, but remove as much oxygen as you can from the container before you put any sort of storage. So
yeah, if you're really looking in, if that's part of your plan is to store large amounts of fuel, I would try to see if you could make it diesel.
Yes, well, I'm the diesel guy, so I'm all over. Yeah, I'm all over that. But you know, rotations coming into play there too. I mean, if you're storing gas and you got to do regular, it's arguable. I'd say about a year. Some people say 6 months. You can fire up something with at least a year, I'd say.
Yeah, with the stabilizers and stuff, I think a year is fine most of the time.
Right. But I'm a diesel guy all the way through. It's just there's just so many advantages with it, and I make my own. Like I've converted cars to run off of used veg oil, so I got out of the gas game a long time ago. But there's a bartering item, or if you're stuck with a gas car,
right? You know. Yeah, if you're not willing to make and also I think JJ actually has made a video recently of a gas storage kind of container that's an option. And I think for people who just want to have gas for their cars and everything like that, they're called a gas caddy. I'm going to show you. I'm going to share screen again. So they have different versions like this that have the built-in kind of valves for if it, if you need to let off some of the fumes and whatnot. It has wheels and everything. So a drum like you were talking about is normally only going to be 30 to 55 gallons. These are 30 gallons right here. You can move it around a hell of a lot more easily than a drum. It has a built-in hand pump, circular pump. So I think unless you're looking to store multiple drums and hundreds of gallons or something like this would probably be a better bet. You can move it to your vehicle, instead of having to pump into a container, then pour or pump into your car, things like that. So
yeah, I heard that he put the letter D on one of them
for diesel.
Yeah, for diesel, and
right.
I thought it was a pretty smart buy, specifically for what you were suggesting is its capacity to move around easily.
Right, the wheels and everything like that are pretty good. These aren't cheap, but a few $100. I think it is a much better way to store than even having, once you get into that kind of gallon, that kind of quantity. If you're talking 10 gallons, 5 gallons, a can is obviously the best bet. It's just going to be the easiest. It's going to be the cheapest. But when you're talking like, I want to store 30 gallons, I want to store 50, 60 gallons, you're going to have to start looking into stuff like this, I think. The actual barrel, just, yeah, right? A barrel is just going to be so hard to move. You have to get a pump and stuff anyway for it. How are you going to fill it? Are you going to drag the 55-gallon drum to the gas station to fill it up, or are you going to have to shuttle in a bunch of gas cans anyway? This thing has wheels, so you could theoretically take it on a trailer, a flatbed trailer, or even a truck if you have ramps or something along in the back. You don't want to really usually fill up anything sitting in the bed of your truck and without grounding it, but
Agreed. I've got some of those barrels though too, and you obviously dollies and binder straps and things like that, but
yeah, it's doable.
You ignore your dolly for a few months, 6 months, the tires are deflated.
Yeah, exactly. You go to move it and the tires are flat and everything.
Yeah. SPR. It sounds. Hold on, is that the radio station from that TV show?
I don't know. Thanks, SPQR. Memes aside, which show?
There was a show back in the 80s, I think it was WPR or something, Cincinnati.
Oh, no.
WPR.
Yeah. This is a Rush. SPQR was for the Senate and the people of Rome, right? I mean, it's like the letters for.
All right, I didn't know that.
Am I right? You're gonna have to let me know. Anyways, he says, memes aside, any morale items either of you prefer? Cocaine and hookers. No, but I mean, honestly, for me, it's the same as anything else with prepping. I want to maintain my lifestyle as close as possible to what I do on a day-to-day basis, and what kind of stuff do I like, and is it going to take power? The internet, I like the internet a lot. That's going to be hard to replicate. So movies, books, cards, things like that. Maybe mix in some comfort foods that store well if you can, a little bit of candy or treats. I actually do have a little bit of stash of chocolate for my girlfriend, because I know that she really, really likes chocolate. And that would make a huge difference just to have you in a little bit during a rough scenario. And yeah, so stuff like that, just games, entertainment. If you have a little bit of power and you can throw in some movies here and there, that'd be a huge difference, I think. So for me, just not having to work and being able to sit back and maybe pick off some looters here and there, that'd be entertainment enough, I think. Yeah. What would Snake Plissken do exactly?
Yeah, I don't have any. I'm single, not with anybody. So there's one thing that Bear Grylls said that I thought was pretty cool. I don't think he's much of a survivalist as much as he is into the movement for showmanship. Personally, that's just me. I think there's a lot of hodgepodge behind Mr. Grylls and some of the survival equipment that he sells. With that said, he had talked about having a laminated photo in his boots, which I thought was brilliant. So it could be of a loved one. It'd be, you know what, if that were the case, it'd be with I don't actually have one. It'd be with my daughter, photo of her. Certainly won't be any woman in my life, because they're all fucking crazy. But, but I think that would be good. You know, it's simple, something simple like that psychologically could probably do a lot for you.
Yeah.
I haven't really put much thought into it, to be honest. So maybe some of the comments from our viewers can share what they have in their preps, their bug out bag.
Yeah, good idea.
Off their car that they use for morale.
Yeah, I think music, movies, and books is a good one, because I think a lot of people, and I've even noticed this on just small bouts of military training, how you don't realize how much you not necessarily rely on these things, but how used to having these things around you are. Something as simple as music, until you've gone a week or so with just out hearing any music, you know. Or a lot of people, they really seem to struggle drinking only water, you know, not having any flavored beverages. They'd be like, oh my God, even this all powdered Gatorade type drink mix that they have in MREs and stuff are like a huge deal to them. So I would try and maybe do some of these week-long trips or exercises where you live off your preps for a weekend or a week or whatever, and see what you miss the most. Focus on that stuff. For some people, it's going to be physical comfort, you know, like just having a little bit of better of an air mattress, a little bit more comfortable clothing, that, you know, a little bit softer toilet paper. Like some people, that's really important. For other people, it's like the food, the snacks, the flavored drinks. For other people, it's the entertainment. They can take the physical hardships, but they're going to be bored out of their mind. So I would try and figure out which of those categories you miss the most and focus on storing that stuff, getting that squared away.
One test I would add to that, I absolutely agree. Everything you just said is to disconnect your internet, your phone, just disconnect from the system and see what goes on in your mind. What's happening? We had 3 people, a bunch of people. So I'm not insane. It's been proven. There is an actual TV show. It was WPRK.
Ah, okay.
In Cincinnati. So, well, thanks for the question. SPQR, Cincinnati.
That's my bro.
Yeah, cool, man. That's cool. Yeah, I think you're hitting the nail there too. I mean, in terms of junk food, although not really productive physiologically or nutrition wise, you're suggesting that you've got chocolate stored for your girlfriend, your missus. The positive impact psychologically would just go so far that it would supersede.
Right. Yeah, just obviously it's not healthy or whatever, but it's just like you said, the massive psychological benefit, which is same for things like small amounts of alcohol, coffee. For a lot of people, were just literally they would be miserable or without it, and or just feel a lot more comfortable with it. I mean, these are cheap things most of the time. A little bit of candy, a little bit of coffee, you know, some light entertainment type stuff, drink mixes, things like that. Really easy most of the time. And obviously, if you have any serious vice, you're going to want to find out a plan for either supplying that or tapering it off. You know, an already stressful situation is not going to be when you want to start quitting your heroin habit cold turkey or whatever, or just smoking or whatever. You know what I mean? Dip, you know, who knows?
Definitely be a lot of psychological shock. One of the first preppers I met years ago, I drove for a few hours actually to meet him when the movement wasn't so public. A lot of preppers were really sort of underground, didn't really speak to anybody, really. It was more of a secretive movement. He was in the military. Well, you might have, I mean, Eric, you might appreciate this. He was in a live fight battle, and some of his guys, his boys got shot. But what struck with me with that conversation was the psychological disconnect. The psychological term is disassociation, where there was a live fire battle going on at that time, and there were soldiers that took their firearms and sat down and, you know, scratched their head because it was such a shock to their system psychologically. Right. And they weren't able to engage at moments at a time because it was overwhelming for their mind. And like you, a trained professional in a lot of respects when it comes to anything in that regard, and you've obviously have some experience. These are people that are trained, so it takes a committee with a insert disaster EMP. There's going to be a lot of challenges for a lot of people psychologically. So morale is going to be a key difference, I think, between life and death in a lot of ways, because
Right.
it's a lot of any of these guys, Green Beret or SAS, Navy SEALs, any of these guys, bring them, EJ, bring them up here. If he decides to come on, they'll tell you flat out. I've read enough books say that this is 80% of this is in your mind.
Right.
It's survival, preparedness, everything that all the viewers are watching here, and getting into this movement for if they're serious about it. I'll put it this way, then I'm going to shut up. If we had a serious disaster, there's going to be a lot of preppers that fail because they don't have this prepped. There's going to be a lot of people that have nothing to do with prepping that are going to survive because they have psychological adaptation that will.
Totally agree. And it'd be interesting thought process. Maybe we should try and think about this and cover it on a later episode or video. Is things you could do to try and train that or culture that kind of, you know what I mean? Like, what if you realize you're one of those people who does tend to just freeze up, like things you could do to become a man of action, I guess, or someone who just,
I've tried to do some, I dumped myself into water. We did I blindfolded myself, tried to start fire, did all these psychological things. We didn't eat. A group of us just, okay, we're starving. Some of these guys, they took it to some of the guys I know, like they were like, okay, I'm sitting in my closet for,
you told me.
Sit in their closet and eat and function in their closet. So, but yeah, totally. What would your test be? What would be the first test that you would do to challenge?
I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. It'd be interesting to think about, because luckily even though I haven't ever had to face incredibly crazy situations in any sort of minor emergencies or situations, I at least act. It's not necessarily going to be in a way that makes the best sense or the best decision, but I've never been one to at least freeze up and not do anything, which is good, because I don't know what I would do if that was me. It's not that I chose that. That's just, so that's a good thing. But I don't know how, I don't know what the best test would be of that. Something to think about. I'll have to come up with something.
Well, not for you, Eric, because you're much more advanced than most preppers that I know. In a lot of respects, but I mean, just for the general audience, take off. Right. Maybe Eric, maybe you want to do this. You admit it.
Yeah.
You've got a little bit of a social media addiction.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe we just turn off social media for 2 days or 3 days. Do something on it, like all notifications, everything off your phone. And that would be, there's a test people could do, or for a week.
Yeah.
Or you can do like me. I did this in November, like a whole month. Just shut out the whole outside world. Jay Dizzle, I think this is a new user. I haven't seen her before. Anthony Hopkins in The Edge. Quote, giving up kills you. And
that's an excellent movie, by the way, if you guys haven't seen The Edge.
I love that movie.
Yeah, he's talking about how he said most people who die in a survival situation, it's not because of anything. They just give up and die. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I'm sure it's mostly like exposure and things like that, but the point stands that action, doing something is usually almost always better. So.
Yes, absolutely. Going back to your point, which is if you freeze or you don't take action or you take an irrational action, then you're probably going to die. So action with the best knowledge that you have at the time and the skills that you have at the time to do something is going to have some sort of impact. But above and beyond all that, your motivation is going to be powered by your psychological will to survive the situation. Right. So Jay Dizzle says, I'm new. Thanks for joining us. It's nice. Like, we don't get a lot of girls here. So
yeah, right. That's cool.
So thanks for joining us. We do this every Sunday, by the way. But maybe I'm good to rock here, Eric.
Yeah, man, we've gone a nice over an hour quickly. So appreciate everyone coming in. We cruised through it even without our guest scheduled. So we'll probably go ahead and tweak the title of our.
Yeah, what do you want to do? Wait, like, what do we do with EJ? This is twice.
I don't know. I don't know.
Give the audience. I'm just gonna grab a drink here.
Okay.
Maybe if you don't mind for 2 minutes, let's just see what the audience thinks we should do. It's twice.
Okay. Yeah. What do you guys think? Are you all about the second chances with good excuses, or are you take offense to being stood up? Let us know. Yeah, so post your ideas of what you would do if your guest ghosted you 2 weeks in a row. Yeah, I have done. I mean, like I haven't purposely done any of these like dopamine fasts or shutting off everything during normal everyday stuff. But I've done camping trips, where you don't have, and this is not hard. It's just when it's in front of you, then it's obviously you just go right to it.
Okay.
Mark, Destiny takes offense. Mark Olson says he's ready for an explanation. William McClaskin says it was the polar vortex. Ask him to come back. Off with his head. So we're about split between banishment and second chances.
Okay.
He said another. We have Zach actually recommends we just get Canadian Prepper on and have him talk about his wares instead. I'm never gonna begrudge someone for selling sweet survival gear, like the Rule the Wasteland survival fishing kit on Amazon. He said, BRG says this isn't Tinder. This is a prepper trifecta. No ghosting is allowed. And Jeremy says if the dude has good info, give him another shot. I tend to agree with that. But then Travis Soros says feed him to the wolves. So like I said, it's pretty even split between hang 'em high.
All right. Well, Eric, I'm going to leave this in your hands. I'm going to send his response.
Yeah. Oh, did he have a response?
Not yet, but I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if he doesn't reply.
Right. Then it's obvious. But I mean, I like the SBQR says 1 month ban from Bartertown. Yeah, he did break a deal. He should have to face the wheel. Maybe we'll make our own little wheel. It's like,
yeah, he's going to donate $100 to.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny. Cool. Yeah, fishing in Las Vegas is a challenge. They do have Lake Mead and a few other parks that they've stocked fish at. So cool. Well, thank you everyone for watching. I'm gonna have to wrap it up here. Got dinner plans.
Cool.
But yeah, it's awesome. So let me know what he says. We'll find out. To me, it all depends on what the excuse is. Maybe you got stuck in Texas. It happens.
It'll be good. It's Che Prepper Logic. You can check out my channel just by googling Prepper Logic.
Don't listen to Che. Sign up for his Patreon.
No, I'm good. I like this. It's intense.
Okay. So you hear that, everyone? You're not allowed to sign up.
I don't care.
He's going the reverse psychology route. No, but I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for watching. We'll be here next week.